Hello and welcome to the Metal Pack Pod, the industry's leading podcast for the global metal packaging industry. The Metal Pack Pod is brought to you by the Metal Packager, the number one digital resource for the global metal packaging market. With over 7,000 monthly users in over 140 countries worldwide, be sure to check us out on metalpackager.com. Today's podcast, we have an inside scoop as we learn about the first global aluminium can sustainability summit, which occurred recently. Regular guest Scott Breen from Can Manufacturers Institute provides the inside track on how the summit is hoping to be an instrumental event where over 100 industry delegates from across the value chain discuss how to operationalise the decarbonisation of aluminium produced for can sheets and generate transparent information on recycling and circularity, including how to measure recycled content in beverage cans. But before we begin the episode, we must give special mention to our sponsors PPG. We're really proud to partner with you and thank you for supporting the Metal Pack Pod this year. Their range of innovative and sustainable solutions enables its customers to protect and beautify the world. Let's find out what Scott had to say. Afternoon, Scott. Thanks very much for joining me. Pleasure as always. And we've got a couple of exciting new announcements from you guys. So I think probably first things first, if we could just, if you can introduce the Can Sustainability Summit, which you successfully launched last month.
Yes, thanks, Alex. I appreciate the opportunity to tell your listeners about the Global Aluminum Can Sustainability Summit, or Aluminium Can Sustainability Summit. And this is the first time we've done this sort of event, bringing the whole value chain together to talk about key sustainability issues. This summit focused on decarbonization, the aluminum can value chain, as well as how do we measure recycled content in aluminum beverage cans in a standardized way globally, and also how to standardize how we measure recycled content in aluminum beverage cans so that we're measuring that in the same way globally. We, the Can Manufacturers Institute, where I work, we represent U.S. metal can makers and their suppliers. We co-organize this with the International Aluminium Institute, which represents the primary aluminum producers globally, and it was sponsored by Ardagh Metal Packaging and Crown Holdings.
Excellent stuff. I mean, could you just, obviously you mentioned about the fact that very much focus on decarbonisation. I mean, was that the key theme, or was it just overall sustainability? And it would just be interested to hear for our listeners who weren't at the event, sort of the summary of the guys that were there and who you were looking to target, who were the delegates there, etc. Are they fundamentally all members, for instance, or is there how did the event shape up overall?
Yeah, so we had more than 100 people there from across the aluminum beverage can value chain. And if people are interested to see what organizations were there, they can go to cancentral.com/global aluminium summit. And there you'll see the logos of all the organizations that attended. You'll see the speaker names, you'll see the agenda. So if people are curious to see who was there and what transpired, they can go there. It wasn't about sustainability generally. We really tried to hone in on decarbonization and standardizing measurement of recycled content. On the decarbonization front, we had Carl Downey from Science Based Targets there, talking about some of the companies along the value chain that have made science-based targets and others that haven't, in part because we're hoping that science-based targets will soon make an aluminum sector-specific intensity method that will help enable those companies upstream of the can maker to make a science-based target. We also had International Aluminium Institute and Jason Martins, who's from Mission Possible Partnership, talk about their aluminum sector transition strategy, which is really a decarbonization roadmap for the aluminum industry, which was published a week after our summit, but they gave all the summit attendees a sneak peek. So that was great to see. And I think that's a really well done report, lots of good data, facility level data that they incorporated into how we can get on a 1.5 degree scenario, what that's going to take. And it's pretty intense. It's something we need to be real about and think about how we're going to get there. And then we did have a panel with primary aluminum suppliers from Emirates Global Aluminium, Rio Tinto, Hydro, Alcoa. We had a can sheet suppliers panel, Novelis, Spira, Trieros, Constellium. So we had all the key players there where we first heard from Coke and Heineken, some beverage brands telling us what their expectations were. This included, you got to decarbonize, and then boom, here's the plan, that sector transition strategy. And then we had the key players upstream talk about what they're doing and how they're going to help operationalize the sort of strategy we heard about.
Can you just provide perhaps a summary of the key findings for the event, or was it more of a networking sort of opportunity initially, or was there key strategy that was finalized as a result? Because I know within the industry there's quite a few industry events, and they often turn into more of a the actual content is secondary, and it's more about perhaps after the event is when the real business gets done. I'm just curious to know how this was perhaps differs to your traditional events that the likes of the Can Maker Summit provides, for instance.
Yeah, so this was the first time we ever did this sort of summit, right? So it was important to get everyone in the room, yes, to meet each other and network, sure. But that was not success. Success was, let's get everyone aligned that these are important things to make progress on, and let's talk about how to do that. Now, we knew over the course of a day and a half, and the first time bringing this group together, we weren't going to solve it all and have the plan and everyone agreeing to the plan at the end of a day and a half. But this was and there's been a lot of work to this point. We wanted to make sure to be complementary to that existing work, but let's review where we're at. Let's be real about where we have to get to, and then let's think about how we're going to get there. And I think there was already some good thinking presented. That mission possible partnership sector transition strategy, that lays out very clearly how we can get there. So now it's a matter of how do we mobilize the funding, be it from investors or government sources or otherwise, to get the new innovations, to get the technology installed. What policies do we need to advocate for, like a beverage container deposit return system, to get that recycling rate up so that we have more scrap incorporated? Lots of different things were discussed. And I think the plan now is, well, how do we build off this momentum? I think part of that is getting more people to endorse partnerships sector transition strategy, getting more people to set science-based targets, mobilizing more funding for the sector transition strategy. It calls for $1 trillion of investment. It's a lot of money. Alex, you and I can't do it. We need more people to chip in. So that's another thing that we need to do as an industry. And then on the recycled content front, we had Laura Thompson there from Green Blue. It's a nonprofit where she talked with industry players ahead of the summit. And then at the summit, she reviewed what are other materials doing, what has this industry done so far, and how do we standardize this and do it in a way that's in line with industry standards that are out there, and do it in a way that everyone can get behind and use. So now the plan is to form a small group, refine that process, and hopefully get everyone to adopt it. So you can see that we did a lot of talking, some networking, reviewing some possible plans and strategies, and now we're building off that momentum with some meaningful progress in the two key focus areas: decarbonization, measurement of recycled content.
Experience the iSense family of specialty coatings. PPG iSense Specialty Over Varnishes help beverage brands stand out on the shelf with unique effects. A tactile finish with a dynamic effect you can see and touch. A velvety, deep matte finish. A satiny smooth, medium gloss over varnish. A white base coat that makes colors pop. A bottle can and cup over varnish that enables special shapes. And a luxurious finish that shimmers and shines. Proven performance, possibilities. Learn more at www.packagingcoatings.com/iSense.
As a global industry as well, is this tricky to do? Because I know from a just in the US alone, obviously we've talked about the deposit return schemes, etc., and it's trying to get a unified strategy. We always say it's a small industry, but obviously the geography involved means that there is lots of work, and particularly when you're talking about decarbonisation and trying to get everyone in the same place at the same time involves jumping on airplanes, and you can't necessarily do this on Zoom or Microsoft Teams. So right. I assume you guys have got that in mind as well, is that sort of putting your money where your mouth is when it comes to decarbonisation. It's a tricky subject for all involved, really, isn't it?
Certainly. And people are in different places, people have different ideas, but we had this event in Europe consciously because we felt like this would allow for people from the US, people from Asia, Europe, Africa. It's somewhat of a central place for everyone to come to. We wanted a global audience here. You are right that CMI, we focus on US metal can makers and their suppliers. We stepped in to help put this on because there is no global can making organization. So we felt like this was something we could help jumpstart. It might be that there's some global can initiative that's CMI supports, but not necessarily within CMI. We'll see where this goes. But the key point is that CMI, along with International Aluminium Institute, with the generous sponsorship of Ardagh Metal Packaging and Crown, got this event going, getting the conversation started in these key areas. And now we're putting together, okay, let's build off this momentum and do something concrete to make progress. And I also want to point out that one of the nice things that we did was one of the last sessions of the summit was doing an individual exercise where people were answering questions about, is this important? Do you think the industry will achieve these goals? And it was across the board. I mean, people were saying, this is important. This is critical to our growth, critical to our industry. We agree we need to standardize recycled content. We think we're going to get there. It's not going to be easy, but we think we're going to get there on decarbonization. So you kind of got a sense that everybody's in the same place. Everybody knows the end point. But now comes the hard work of, okay, to your point, how do we globally make progress on this? We're working on it.
And what comes next? Because I know it's all well and good having a successful meeting and agree strategy, but putting the hard part is actually everyone having the goodwill when individuals are busy to try and get things moving. I mean, is it long term to maybe have a global organization that deals with this directly, or is there carrying on as things are now? I'd be just quite curious to see how things develop in the coming months for this, and whether you're going to have a regular event, for instance.
I'm also curious to see how this plays out in the coming months. I think it remains to be seen. I think there could be a global organization, a global initiative that is looking at these issues more consistently. There could be some regional events that we could have in between this global event. We're looking at a lot of different options, but we're all focused on this. We all know where we want to go. And so because this is so important, because everyone is so committed, that's one of the reasons I love working in this industry, is that people want to work together to make a difference because it's the right thing to do. And it's also going to benefit the industry. I'm confident that we'll have meaningful progress to share in the coming months and years. This is going to be a long-term process. It's not going to be easy to decarbonize the aluminum industry.
Absolutely, it sounds exciting. And just to sound off here, have you got any links for our listeners to follow up on after listening to this mini podcast?
Yeah, so cancentral.com/global aluminium summit if people are interested in learning more about what happened at the summit. And then cancentral.com/sustainability if people want to learn more about what the US industry is doing to increase aluminum beverage can recycling rates, all our research, communications, all the things, they're all on that site. So I'd encourage people to go to both of those places.
That's brilliant stuff. Thanks very much, Scott.
Thanks, Alex.